This podcast is brought to you by the Network by Area Academy, our online education platform which gives you 24/7 access to on-demand HD tutorials from award-winning stylists. Discover and explore more by visiting thenetwork.education. Episode 24 of the Network podcast. Welcome, James.
Thanks for having me.
Today we have a very special guest, James Coulson. We're in the Gold Coast in his beautiful office.
My humble abode.
Yeah,
what a great space.
Embark agency.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, we're a creative agency on the Gold Coast. Been around for nearly 20 years. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to have your own space. And
20 years?
Yeah.
You don't look old enough.
I'm 42. For all those playing at home.
Actually?
Yeah.
Wow. Would not have guessed that.
Yeah. You're in your 30s in my eyes.
That's the secret.
For sure.
I eat well, I exercise,
Yeah.
I meditate, I do all those good things that the body needs. And I look after myself. So I like to use the 80-20 rule a lot in business, but in life as well. It's like the 80% of your time you want to be doing the right thing. I still have fun.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just
one of the key ones, isn't it? Fun. Get all a bit serious sometimes.
When we turn into adults, everything just becomes so serious. And so how we know James and how we met was through Kerwin Ray's mastermind group, K to Elite. I had an experience recently at Nissi Crew, and it was so fun. Like we were just doing ridiculous things in the crew room, just like dancing around and just being like kids. And it's like you forget about that sometimes, don't you? When you get into business, especially. Yeah,
and I find that, especially when I was in the crew space with Kerwin, and you're in that back area, and you are getting told to dance and have fun, and I think there's a lot of older men, that were finding that quite uncomfortable, being in that space of just letting go a little bit and having fun. I know I felt a little bit uncomfortable being vulnerable, and I don't know. Yeah, for some people, that is a challenge to let go and have fun.
Yeah, I definitely found that on day one. I was quite stiff. I was quite stiff, and I was kind of coming out of everyday life and normal society where we are kind of a little bit tense. And then getting into that by day 3, I was a little bit looser. It was still a bit awkward at times, but you embrace it, You do. There's no judgment there. It's
stepping into that, and I think part of it's just not knowing what is going to happen. A lot of that uncertainty when you first go into that space. And then you start seeing a few of those, eye flies, which is I fucking love you, and you confess to someone that you love in the group and say, hey, not romantic love, but I fucking love you, man. You the way you show up and all those things, and someone holds your hands and stares at you in the eyes and tells them how they're feeling about you and how much you've done for them, and how it's quite a confronting. It can be quite confronting for some people to do that. So it's great that you get that opportunity in a safe space to be able to do those things.
I think that's what I learned from that, being exposed to that, you're in the safest place you can be. And that's what I think was so powerful for us, because I think it was the first time in a very long time, or maybe ever, we felt safe enough to express in that way. And it's brilliant, but it's also sad at the same time. But it was beautiful.
Yeah,
such a safe space.
I try and bring those learnings for the culture of my team as well. I've got a team of 7, and sometimes we've got our own kind of expressions that we do that are kind of the same thing, same but different. And I seem to be the only one that seems to be giving these things away because the team is still quite. It still quite makes them that little bit vulnerable, and maybe that's because I haven't made the space safe enough, or they don't feel confident enough to do that. So that's something to work on. But yeah,
it's definitely rubbed off on us as well. I think the delivery of the value and the content of the courses that we brought to the Barber Academy and the Gold Coast over the last few days. The energy's just been been so present, and just really holding nice space for people to be comfortable. And it's it becomes this thing where it's not even about the hair anymore. When we're asking them for shares or feedback, and it's not even about the hair anymore. It's just about the human connection. And
I think I think presence is a key thing there as well. Being very present with whoever you're speaking with or whoever you're connecting with, having that presence there. And they say that listen to hear, don't listen to respond. And it's about really understanding and having that empathy, especially as a leader in a team, or teaching people. You really want us to understand where they're at, and I think it's important that we listen properly.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys do as an agency? It kind of ties in a lot to what we speak about in our podcast. In our industry, we know the power of branding. We know the power of having a personal brand and where that can actually lead you to in terms of your life, not only business. But yeah, we want to hear it from the expert. We want to hear if our findings are actually correct.
If we're telling the truth.
Yeah. They're good findings. Yeah. Obviously, I'm biased because I love brand strategy and branding, and I know how important it is. And I've been a brand designer for over 20 years. It's a forever evolving space with technology, and it's a really fun. I've always enjoyed my job, and I think being a creative, I think we get to do something that we enjoy for work, and not a lot of people can say that. But I've always loved my job, always loved my work. I feel like I'm always growing, always getting better, always learning. Every job you do is different. Like every haircut you do is different. Like it's always in a state of flux and changing. And I think that's why I love the industry as well, because you're always learning and growing and upskilling, and there's new trends and things out like haircuts and that as well, or new cutting styles that come out, or for us there's definitely new styles, new trends, new programs. There's all things that just mix up the industry. And I know when I started, we didn't have the tools that are available these days for people coming out of uni or college, or like we don't have the resources they have now, which is, I remember if I needed to draw a flower for a logo, I would actually have to draw a flower for a logo. Like I'm talking 20 years ago, that's what I had to do. And now you can just go online and go Shutterstock, flower, don't like that flower, don't like that flower, don't like that this one, I'll just use that. And it's become, it's that a lot of that grunt work is done for us now. We have all these resources at our fingertips. But what I say to most people, and it's like giving someone a loaded gun sometimes, because there's all these resources out there, and people think they've got a computer, they're a designer, or they've got the programs. Well, I'm a designer. Like people got a pair of scissors. I'm a barber. You probably don't get it as much. But for us, everyone's a designer out there, and I think everyone has got creativity inside of them. But it takes years to learn how to craft your design eye, and learn what the composition of shapes and typography and colors and what works, and how to blend that into giving it a feeling and an emotion. So when people interact with it, it has meaning and purpose. And for a designer or creative, just because you have a computer or the program doesn't mean you can do that. And that's where a lot of people, I think, get a little bit kind of confused, because like there's otherwise you think about all the artists and painters in history, it's the same thing. Your computer is a tool, these programs are a tool, but it still takes that knowledge and expertise and that practice to get really good at what you do. And there's, same with any creative field like hairdressing as well. And
that's what we were saying to the students today, the people who are just starting off in their own careers. It's like, okay, you don't have to go through the same pain that we've gone through to get to this point. We're here giving you everything that we know. Use it. Yeah. Use it to your best ability. Yeah. But then, to get to that point, I wouldn't change the journey. No. Now that you can actually speak about the fact that you were drawing the flowers is an awesome story. Yeah. It's funny to think about now, but it's crazy, isn't it?
And I used to paint and draw and do all that stuff. I've do it a little bit now, like every now and again, but it used to be like all I did when I was a kid before the computers were there. But you look at any industry or any sport, like I know Joe Rogan speaks about a lot about jiu-jitsu and how there's all these new techniques and things, and all of these new kids coming through learning the sport, they're learning from the masters that have tried and tested these techniques, and they can just go, okay, this technique does this, and they've got this library of techniques that they can just tap into and learn, which those guys never had. They had to learn that stuff. Yep. Yeah. It's incredible how technology is just fast-paced learning and education, and if you look at even footy back in the day, you look at football players now and football players like 50 years ago, just what they look like. Like it's a completely different sport.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible.
It's mad, isn't it? It kind of really comes back to like a mindset thing after all of that, though, because you can have all the tools and it can become almost too easy then, and then it makes people do nothing. Like they just say, it's too easy almost. Yeah. If that makes sense, but
I think it also brings a lot of competition as well, having all those tools available, and I still think there's a balance between hard work and then natural talent. And then sometimes the really naturally talented people, because it's come so easy, they don't work as hard, right? And then you've got the ones that are kind of, they're pretty talented. They're not the best of the best. They're not, the genetics aren't up there, but they know how to work hard and have that commitment and put their skills to it. You know, I think it's consistency and resilience and all those things that make a great sports person. It's not necessarily just talent. They need to have a mixture of all those things. So that consistency is a massive thing.
Same thing in what you're doing, same thing in what we're doing. Like, what is the point of difference then in such a competitive market for brands as well? Working with brands, what is their point of difference? And it's what they stand for, right? Like, more so than what it looks like.
It is. And people think the branding is just a logo, but it's so much more than that. It is your reputation, and it's the ecosystem. It's the message that you're telling your customers through the way you look, the way you feel, the way you talk, the way you interact. I always look at branding as there's three main elements to branding. There's the what, which is the transaction. That's what you're doing. That's, you know, the haircut or the logo design. You're providing a service or a product. So you need to make sure that what you're doing is what the customer wants. And, you know, if you're not doing the latest and the greatest, or you're not keeping up, you could start losing some of your clients because you're not staying up to date with what they actually want. So part of a brand, and part of, you know, we specialize in rebranding, but you want to have a look at exactly what it is you're offering and making sure that your customers still want that. And that's one massive part of branding, because if you're not giving them what they want, you know, you're going to run out of clients. The second part is, I call it the how. So that's how you give your product or service to your customer. That's the experience. And you need to work on that again. You need to work on how do you give this product or service to your customers, and how do they actually want it. Now, this is where most brands innovate. If you look at Airbnb, if you look at Netflix even, they're offering the same what. The what hasn't changed, right? That's movies and TV, they're still giving it. But the how they're giving that is how they've really innovated the space and disrupted the industry. So think about industries that are changing quite phenomenally now is they're working on that how, the customer experience. How can we give this in a different way, or offer it in a different way, and do things differently to our competitors? And then the final part of a brand is your why. Why are you doing what you do, and why does the customer want it? Because if you look at most transactions, it's not just about the what. And I always use some shoes, for example. Like, I'll go to the shops and I'll buy some shoes, and I'm not going to the shops to buy shoes because I need to protect my feet to walk in. That's a small part of it, but I already have plenty of shoes. That's not why I'm buying them. So you've got to look at that emotional motive behind why they're buying these shoes. And I would buy them because I think they're cool and I want to look good. They match my outfit. It's fashionable. There's all these other factors that go into the why you want to buy or purchase. So uncovering, and that's usually through deeply held beliefs that the customer has, and how they've, the culture, everything around that as well. So for a great brand, if you're working on the why, it's really down to values. It's connecting with the values, and I like to think that people will, behind every business, behind every product, there is a person, and you want to make sure that you align with those people and their beliefs, because that's a massive part of why you would use them in the first place. And that's why personal brands do really well, like Kerwin Rae. He does amazing because he's such a strong personal brand that he doesn't need, and you'll notice a lot of business coaches, they have shit branding, like really shit branding. Because they've got such a strong personal brand that they haven't needed to, because their word of mouth, they've just got such a hold on their audience. So yeah, a great brand needs to work on all those: the why, the purpose, the how, and the what. And if you can kind of work on each one of those on your side and the customer side, you can develop a really strong brand. So we can't actually we can't control what people think of our brand. It's absolutely impossible, but we can control the narrative. And we can influence them through the look and feel of your brand, how you message, how you talk, how you interact, all of these things, every touch point, every customer experience. That's how we influence our customer and build a reputation. And that all needs strategic thinking. You can't just do that on the fly. It's like, let's have a plan on how. I call a brand strategy your customer strategy. It's about working on how you want to interact with your customers and having a plan for that. And that changes and evolves over time. So that's why rebrands happen, because you're maybe not aligned to your brand anymore. So that's in essence what we do, is we make sure that your And this is why not ideal customer is so important. But we look at the business and the brand, and we identify who they are, what they do, and why they do what they do, and we identify the customer as well. So branding is essentially matchmaking your business to your ideal customer, and that's kind of what we work on, that strategy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the podcast over, right?
Branding 101.
I don't know what else to say.
We've done our job. We've done our job.
Great.
That was awesome. It was a really...
Because my next question was, can you define brand? But you just did it anyway. So that was great, yeah.
So one of the really important things is with branding as well as your brand positioning. And that's when we look at your competitors, because one of my mentors, Marty Numai, and he's quite an old guy in branding, but he's got this scale called it's 4 spectrums of choice, and on one side you can be like everyone, on the other side you're the only choice brand for someone, and then the other one's like you can be one of many, one of a few, and be the only choice. So there's like 4 spectrums. Now down this end where you're like everyone, it is all transactional, and you're a commodity. So you're basically, someone's looking for the cheapest deal. Right, they're looking for. I just need the cheapest thing. I don't care about the brand. I'm not a part of the brand. There's no emotional feeling. I've got this much money. I want to buy it. And the problem with being down there is usually because you're a mediocre brand. So you don't have a strategy. You look dodgy. So people are like, they look cheap and dodgy. So I'm just gonna. I know I'm gonna get a good deal there because they're cheap and dodgy.
Yeah.
Or you're not marketing, so you're absolutely obscure. No one even knows you exist. And if you're down that end of the scale, that's where you don't want to be. But there's always one person down there, but there can only ever be one cheapest brand. Every other brand needs something else to rest their hat on. And that's your value proposition. And it's really important that you find your place in the market, of what your value is that you bring your clients. And it's that value that is what you want to communicate, not the cost. That you want to stay away from that money. You want to convey the value you're delivering and why people should choose you. And the best brand strategy question I ask clients is, why should they choose you? And it's about answering that question really deeply, So I've actually got a couple of resources around that. But yeah, why should your customers choose you? If the what's the same, if you're just dealing with haircuts or dealing the same thing, then what else? What is the other differentiating factors? And that's where we come down to the customer experience and the why. And it's about communicating those really clearly. And then tapping into the other part of that, which is your ideal audience. If you look at most businesses, 80% of your revenue is generated by 20% of your clients. So the top 20%. They're repeat purchases, they don't mind paying more. They tell their friends, they're the perfect client, they're the ideal client. That's their top, I call them the power base. And which is my mentor Tobias Dahlberg actually helped me, taught me how to do this process. But the top 20% of your clients deliver 80% of your revenue. And this is the 80-20 again. And 80% of your clients deliver 20% of your revenue. So why would you build a brand or a marketing strategy around trying to please everyone? Because you can't please everyone. It's impossible. We all know that. So what we want to do is we want to look at, okay, who are these ideal clients? The top 20. Who are these people? And how do I create a brand and marketing around those people? And it's about getting very clear on that, because most people, and you've heard the word niching, or you target these people, and you can niche in industry, you can niche in product, or you can niche in a customer, or you can niche in all 3 or 2 or whatever. So for us, we've niched into like a more conscious. We call ourselves a conscious creative agency because we want to do more purpose driven work. So we're niching into a client, but we could also say, okay, well, we only want to do logo design. That's it. And we're niching in just that one product. And then we could say, all right, well, I'm only going to do logo design in the medical industry for purpose-driven clients. So I've niched 3 times. But what that does is I become super focused and become a very, very specialized at doing one thing really, really well. And what that does is you can charge more for what you're doing because you're a specialist, not a generalist. And most people fear that. Most people go, I don't want to. I just want to work with everyone, and that's a massive trap. Whereas you can't be a specialist, work with the ideal client, and charge more. And it just makes sense, but it's also very scary. And it took us 20 years to learn that.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's so powerful for people of the hair industry. I feel like I'm almost taking some risks right now on behalf of the hair industry to show them that it is possible.
Yeah.
I think naturally I've been quite good at just building a personal brand throughout my years in the hair industry, because it came from my cycling career where I always kind of brought the personal element into it and let people kind of follow a journey or a story. And Lee and I always speak to the students coming through the industry about sharing that journey from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know, we said it today, you can scroll back through all of our socials pages and you can see the whole journey. You can see the shit haircuts at the beginning. And it builds this story around you, you know, and like there's such power in the story. And like that's kind of like our way as well, as like that conscious, that holistic approach to what we're doing, trying to break the norms, questioning the blueprint, challenging the status quo. And sometimes, you know, the humility comes over me and I don't want to really talk about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I've got clients in Melbourne that pay me $450 for a haircut.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Because of branding though.
Yeah.
The positioning that I've put myself in.
Yeah.
And the value that I've created around it, and educating other people and letting that be seen.
Yeah, so it's a really powerful thing, and I often get the question like, what is a personal brand, and should I create one, and you know, how does that differentiate from my business brand? And then you may want to go, I want to develop some products, should I brand those? And I'm like, well, look, and that's called brand architecture. And the great thing about building a personal brand is you're developing that authority and the trust in the market through just you, and you're speaking to having the story, and we call that in the industry a brand story. So we actually craft brand stories for clients so they can really communicate that hero's journey and where they've come from, and it really identifies their values and what they stand for. And it's a really great story is a really great way of expressing and communicating to your customers. So brand story is really important. But yeah, what was I going to say about the other thing?
Brand architecture.
So and I always use Apple because it's easy, and you know, I can't forget Steve Jobs. But Steve Jobs was the personal brand, and he created a following and became a key person of influence in his industry. And that's what we all strive for. That's what I'm trying to do myself, is become like a key person of influence. And I think you need to write books and do podcasts like we're doing, and do all those things that, you know, getting yourself out there and learning more about the industry and immersing yourself in that. And becoming that key person influence. And what you can then do as well is people will be attracted to you, and then you can funnel that work back through your business or your whatever you're doing on the other side. So you had Steve Jobs, and then you had the company, which was Apple, and then he developed all those sub brands, which was the iMac, the iPad, and all those things. So there's all this beautiful family architecture that he's created. And yeah, the personal brand was a massive part of the publicity, the marketing, everything to do with Apple. He made it, right? And not to mention the stuff he did behind the scenes. Pretty amazing genius. Yeah,
and it just ties back the human element to it all as well, doesn't it? It makes people realize, okay, there is a human behind this.
Yeah. Not that he got along with a lot of people.
Yeah. But people still read his book. They love the story.
He was a genius, absolute genius.
It's interesting the time we're in now, isn't it? Everybody's got the opportunity to put their human behind their brand now. It probably wasn't always as easy.
No.
You know, when Steve Jobs first started it,
yeah,
probably wasn't as easy to, you know, there might have been a reason why he stood out, but now lots of people can stand out.
Yeah.
And using that in our industry has been, I feel like, very powerful. It's worked a lot for us anyway.
You can just look at influencers as the model for personal brands, and how they've really leveraged their beauty and their looks and to sell clothes and things. I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit, hurts me a little bit, because, you know,
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
It seems so easy for them, but you know, some of us have to just work really, really hard and do our bit. And there's a lot more. Yeah, I mean, I don't do what I do to be rich. I just want to help people and do what I love. And I think being a creative, I think we all think like that a little bit.
100%. And I think when you really tie it back to that, and that's a core value of yours, and you know, I joined K2, for example, bringing it back to Kerwin Ray, and really narrowed me down on that focus of, okay, what are my actual values here, and am I living within my values? And like, I went there for business, and I was like, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna smash it, I'm gonna make money, and I'm gonna do all these things, but I haven't even touched the business stuff yet, really. It's been a big personal journey, which is now trickling into the business, and now I'm starting to see the vision more clearly for where we're actually going.
Yeah, and as Cohen will say, you know, how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in every area of your life. And to have a really great business, you've got to be a great leader, and that means we have to work on ourselves to in order to do that, because we're not going to do it on our own. We need a great team, and we need to know how to treat people properly. And whether that's our customers or our team, I think it's really important that we value every part of our business and that customer and ecosystem that we've created.
Have you ever done any work within the hair industry for anybody? Or
My mum used to be a hairdresser.
oh wow,
Oh, there you go.
She owned her own salon for 40 years or something, and
Wow.
same as me.
she
My mum, she's a hairdresser.
yeah, she had to walk away from it in the end, and it was really, really sad. But she worked her ass off. I wish Kerwin Ray was around when she started her business, because I just watched her work her ass off her whole life. She loved what she did though, but she never got anywhere with it. It was just one of those small businesses that just survived for 40 years, which is
That was their thing though, wasn't it? The generations. It's like my
thing,
parents, they've just chipped away, and that's it.
Yeah, and
That's
like
their thing.
I think it was also the first generation where the women were expected to work and care for the children at the same time. So
Wow.
I think they had a bit of a raw end of the stick back then, because they had a lot of
Quick one. The Network by Area Academy is one of the most consistent hair education platforms in the world. We curate and post weekly content for all of our members, as well as providing you with a community of like-minded professionals. Join our Facebook community for free by following the link in the description of this podcast. Okay, back to the pod.
a lot of responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, we're moving into a completely new world, really, when you think about it in that way.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this for ages, but we're kind of becoming that realization generation of like, hang on a second. Now that we have all these tools available to us, we don't have to live life that way anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's become so easy to survive that, we can just have that choice. Most of us are never going to go hungry in living in countries like Australia and places like, the opportunities that we have for ourselves, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
limitless.
I always bring that up in our industry. It's quite funny. I try to be careful of how far I put my foot in it, but the scale of like survival to where we are, we're pushing a fair way away from survival. Like, when do we get to the point where we're like, right, we can survive pretty well now? What are we gonna do now? Should we cut each other's hair? And like, it sounds like a dig on the industry. It's not. It's an expression of how bloody great it is to be a human right now.
Yeah.
Like, look at a lot of the stuff we do. So far away from survival, but it's an expression of how great it is to be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I because I was going through some of them real deep moments and deep thoughts about some of the brands that I was working with and were they aligning with me anymore moving forward. And I was even getting to the point where I was questioning. So I've been made an ambassador by Dyson, and I was questioning that, and I was thinking, but is this really what the world needs? And I went to their concept store and I saw, again, almost like an Apple moment when I went in there and I saw their why and like the reason behind why they do everything. And they had one of the air purifiers on the wall, and it was like broken down into all these different pieces, and every little component had a reason.
It's pretty amazing engineering, isn't it?
Oh, it's
It's
unbelievable.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And then you realize in that moment, you're like, you know what? Like, that's just an expression of like how great it is to be in this generation of humanity, because this is what we're able to do.
Yeah.
This is the shit we can think of right now.
Yeah. We get time to think about this.
Yeah.
Blowing hot hair faster.
Yeah. We no longer have to like be hunter gatherers, like it's mad when you think about it like that. And then it completely shifted my feelings about that, because I was like, you know what, it actually does align, because in our business, one of the main things that we do is it's all about the why and before the how and before the what. Like, like in hair education especially, the why seems to be left out sometimes. It's just like, this is how you do it, this is what you do.
But most brands concentrate on the what.
Yeah. Because that's where the money comes first. It's the first thing they're thinking about is the money.
First thing is to think about.
And I think over this few generations, we've been sitting in the masculine. We've been talking about this a bit lately. Sitting in the masculine energy. Masculine energy is very doing, and we've just got so used to just doing, and that falls into the what.
Yeah.
What is it you do? Oh, we do this. Oh, great. And just crack on. we get stuck there,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's an interesting time moving forward, and something we speak about a lot on this podcast and actually on our education sessions, and even on an online platform now for our education is personal brand, and how important it is for people if they want to, you know, do something different within the industry or really do something unique. But I think it can be a little bit confusing when people hear us saying it, because the first thing that, you know, they think about sometimes might be the logo or might be how it looks, but that's completely not what we're actually trying to say.
It's where you position yourself in the market and against other competitors. It's like it's your brand positioning, and also, you know, working out what actually do you love to do in that in the industry. Like, what's the one thing that you love to do the most? I mean, with designers, we can do logo design. Like, I've got different designers that do different things, who love to do different things, and it's about you know, finding that one thing that lights you up the most, and that's part of your brand as well. It's like, what is that one thing that you love to do, and why don't you concentrate on doing that for the people that love that? You know, matching those up.
Yeah, it's the whole mentality. It's getting out of the mentality of
doing everything.
Everybody's your client as well.
Yeah.
You know, and we speak about this in a consultation kind of way. Like, not everybody's your client, and that's okay. Like, you know, that whole sales thing of like, we're not for everybody, and that's all right.
That's totally all right. And I'd rather, there's nothing worse than working with the wrong kind of client. Everyone's done it, I'm sure. We've worked with someone that we're like, oh my God, we just do not get each other, and they don't like what I've done and I don't like what they're doing, and like there's just a massive disconnect. So if you can kind of avoid that and pre-qualify, and you know, your brand should do a lot of that heavy lifting as well as pre-qualifying those customers. It's like you want to attract the right ones. And then obviously your marketing and sales, everything becomes easier when you're speaking to the right people and you're explaining, and they're connected to you because you're doing exactly what they want. Everything becomes easier. So that brand's so important to the overall success and future happiness of the business as well, like and of yourself. So getting that enjoyment and that purpose, and making sure that you're doing what you want to do, and you're helping the people you want to help.
I think it's really interesting in our industry as well, because I think you could relate to this, having a long career and what you've done. You know, it's repeat clientele for us. You got to be enjoying that stuff. You know, I bring that context up all the time in class. I'm like, look, guys, I'm not saying this to you just to be like, because I'm a fussy hairdresser. I'm serious about curating the clientele that you want.
Yeah.
Because damn, if you're on about like a long career, like my first ever boss, I think he cut hair for something stupid like 47 years, like similar to your mum. He retired in his 70s, and I just don't know how he did like get so bored of it, you know, because he wasn't like qualifying the client.
Yeah,
he was just cutting anybody and everybody.
Yeah,
and now I think, wow, like, oh, I could never do that, you know. But we've got the power to change that now. We have the option, and that's where the personal brand comes in.
You've got social media, and you don't like. I can't work for everybody. You can't cut everyone's hair in Australia. No, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
Right? It's impossible. You only need a handful. Like you're one person. There's only a handful of people you can actually service.
Yeah.
You know, like week to week. It's like, you know, make sure you're picking the right ones. And the other, where I always say, I use this a lot, is like, what's the best way to increase revenue in your business? And that there is only one really real way, and that's through your customers. And that's by attracting more of the right ones. It's by getting them to repeat purchase, and it's by the perceived value. It's like if you charge more for what you're doing, and that's all around that branding and becoming a specialist and just the perception and all of that. So yeah, if you can get really clear on that, you can do less haircuts but for more money. And wouldn't you like? And that's kind of the model. We've gone through that bit of a change. We used to do graphic design for anyone when I started. We're just pumping out the work. Oof. And we're working with anyone and everyone, and you know, it's not some clients were great, some clients weren't so great, and the journey we've been on is like, we want to work on bigger projects that are more meaningful. We don't need as many, and we can have more time to work on them. So we've created that space to create much better work on much bigger purposeful projects, and the team aren't as stressed and worn out from doing all of those jobs all the time. It's just like, let's just work on some really good stuff and put all of our love and thought into these projects. And it's just a different model. It's a little bit chunkier in terms of cash flow, but we're choosing who we work with now, and we all love what we do and we enjoy it more. So it's just that natural evolution. I think when you start out, everyone starts down there with lots of clients, high transactions, low cost, or charging less. And as you start becoming more experienced, you can start charging more, and you're seeing less clients, and it's like this natural progression. So it's
Yeah, I try to help the students with that as well. Little reframe on trying to get too bogged down in that, because it's quite overwhelming for some people. That thought of like, oh, I'm gonna have to do that many clients. They start doing the numbers and realize they got to do 70 haircuts a week, and how long is that going to last? And I try to reframe it and say, look, there is some upside. Like, you know, the lessons you're going to learn in that time is going to be ridiculous.
It's like wax on, wax off, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just go through the motion. You're getting those 10,000 hours a bit to be an expert.
You're going to rack up your 10,000 hours fast. And Owen put it really well today. Like, I've never actually heard you say it, but like, I did a traditional 4-year apprenticeship. Owen basically, but he went in head first from day one and started cutting like 70 clients a week from like week 1.
Wow.
And but what that did is it condensed, almost like the way you put it, is condensed up 4 years into 1 year. I was like, oh yeah, so there is upside in you know, going hard. But as long as you have the awareness to see the lessons, and have the tools and the people around you to show you that there is.
And I think, and this probably applies to you as well when you're in that, because I used to work at a printing company and we used to burn through the work, and I was under so much pressure. I was just chucking out the work, going bang, 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 bang. And the problem is I picked up some bad habits of rushing through creatives. And you can pick up some bad habits by rushing. And I think with any really great, either as hairdresser or branding person or designer, it's the attention to detail that sets you apart. And unfortunately, not everyone can see that attention to detail. But the ones that do see that attention to detail, they're the ones, and it's usually your peers. They go, wow, that is a great job. And it's that's what sets you apart from, you know, the when you start out. It's like that attention to detail, the experience that's there, and the knowledge that comes with that. I picked up some bad habits from going from that churn and burn work. And then as I got more, I had to kind of get out of that habit and go, actually, I'm going to spend more time on this. I'm going to actually leave that and come back to it tomorrow and just let it sit with me and have that luxury to do that. And I think you can't do that with haircuts, obviously. You can't like cut them halfway and go, come back tomorrow, I'll finish that. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do.
I wouldn't put it past him. But it's so relatable. Yeah, so relatable to us as well.
Yeah,
it's great.
No, I love that. I love that, and it's like, sometimes just allowing that integration time and giving yourself more. Like, I stopped working in the shop recently, and I've had more time. It's been more of a luxury, and even more time to just do things that you enjoy doing for yourself. You know, and then the ideas for business come whilst you're doing that. You know, you're just more clear on how you want to live your everyday life.
It's been a weird progression for me as well, because I've moved out of being a graphic designer every day to running a business, and then now I do business development and brand and website strategies, and I'm like, I don't even do much creative anymore, but I do direct the creatives. So I actually give them the brief and I do the strategy, and then they do the work, and then I go, yes, no, change that, change this. So I have that kind of, I'm not doing in the ground kind of doing all that work. But I get to do the kind of high strategic stuff and make the real difference. And I think for me, if it doesn't have a strategy, it's just a pretty picture. It's just cosmetic, and it has to have purpose and intent, and have a strategy behind what we're creating.
Yeah, I think there's a pivotal moment that we're going through at the moment in terms of actual strategy and where it's all going. You know, because for a long time it has been pretty pictures, but I think there's been power in the pretty picture as well, because what we're doing right with that is we're like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, instead of putting all of our eggs into building out this big thing. Because when I started off in education, for example, I remember at the time kind of being told, oh no, you have to have everything figured out first before you even start. But then what if the market doesn't want it? When I spend a whole year or 2 years of my life developing this plan, and then, you know, you get someone comes in and sweeps it all away, or the market doesn't want it anymore, then that's just a whole waste of time.
And I think that's why, you know, with Kerwin as well, we do our planning every quarter. It's like we do have an annual plan, but then every quarter we go, hang on, that's not urgent anymore. Like Putin's just started a war. Let's do something. We need to do something else. Like So I think it's important that you keep your fingers on the pulse. I think that as a business owner, you need to do that. You need to have that awareness. It's a massive deal. I mean, COVID's been hard on everyone. We've struggled a little bit. I think there's challenges every year, and it's about kind of just learning and growing and just working through that. So we're lucky enough to be fairly established and have a bit of a safety net. But I mean, there's only so long you can keep doing that for if times are
It's the lessons in it, isn't it? It's taking the lessons from it and moving forward. And that's why you probably became specialist in rebrand too, because something that we're speaking to a lot of younger barbers and hairdressers about is you don't have to have it all figured out in order to start. You can always rebrand. You can always change your story.
Yeah.
It's not attaching your identity to it, you know. We speak about this thing about people's Instagram pages and how, you know, some of the rappers and stuff like that will take all of their posts off and they'll just put up one post when they're dropping their album. And then we see hairdressers doing the same thing because it looks a certain way, but that's
part of it, yeah. And I think that's what social media is really good for, is that authenticity. Like, if you lose the authenticity, then what's the point? Like, I think it is having that behind the scenes look. It's like, yeah, they came from nothing. I can relate to that. Good on them. They've worked hard. It wasn't overnight success. It inspires you. And I think a brand needs to be authentic, and that's what social media, I think, can do, is have that authentic part of it as well. Yeah.
I like what you're talking about there, but just previously about, you know, allowing things to grow. The theme that kept coming into my head was like the flexibility within business as well. I think that's something that we've been practicing, especially in the last 2 years. All right, we are throwing a lot of things at the wall, but we're allowing it to kind of be, you know, things to come in, and we're not too rigid as well. And I think that's the beauty of that. It kind of sounds similar to you. Without that flexibility, you'd stay too rigid, and we see it all the time in our industry. People are still trying to do haircuts like it's like 2011.
Yeah,
you know, and they're just too rigid. They will not have that flexibility to move.
Oh, like talk to Blockbuster Video, who said they didn't want to do online streaming when Netflix approached them. It's like, do you want to? Let's work together. You're the biggest video place. Fucking died overnight. You know, rigid, not open-minded. Yeah, too big a ship to turn. Yeah, it's crazy. You definitely have to keep that ego out and, you know, think about, innovate. I think innovation's a massive thing, and the world moves just so quickly. We need to. I
saw a great, I'm going to butcher the hell out of it, but it was all the brands, the opposing brands, the ones that are innovating right now. So it's like Taxi doesn't like Uber. Have you seen this one?
No, I haven't.
If someone's got a whiteboard and they write, you know, Blockbuster, Cinema doesn't like Netflix, Taxi doesn't like Uber. And it was like, remember, not all innovation is going to be liked at the start.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you got this whole graph of all these brands and these new innovations. It's just having the balls to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a bit of flexibility and a bit of trust in yourself.
Yeah. And
a bit of confidence.
Just test the water.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, throw the spaghetti at the wall, see if it sticks. If it doesn't, get rid of it.
100%.
Don't be afraid to shelf it.
Yeah. 100%. And like when you look at the hair industry and you think about like barbering or hairdressing, and you think about brand within that, obviously we go around the streets looking at people's haircuts, and, you know, it's one of the things that we kind of
which is
observe,
which is part of your brand, I guess. Like what I look like and what I wear, that's part of my personal brand as well. You know, how we've got piercings or tattoos or whatever it is. And I think we all have a personal brand, and we're all showing it whether we like it or not. And that's the thing, like every business does have a brand. Is yours a good, what kind of perception are you putting out in the market? It's either good or bad. If you haven't thought about it, then that's the kind of feeling the clients are going to get as well. It's like, I haven't thought about that. Well, I'm not connected to that. So, you know, you can either work on your brand, but you've got one. Everyone has a brand. So what do you just think about what you're putting out there?
We had a student like that at the academy, and he was confused around the whole personal brand thing. It was quite a heavy piece that day. We were just from the questions they were firing at us, it kept coming back to personal brand. And it was interesting to listen to you talk there, because you know, you were saying, what's personal brand? How do I like start that? And I'm like, you've been doing it your whole life. You just haven't like been putting it out to the world yet. And then it was the frustrations were around he wasn't getting the work that he wanted to do, and thought that another shop would bring that to him. And I just reassured him. I said, look, nobody cares about you more than you do, and I think in this modern day and age, you're going to have to start showing people. And I said, right now, I didn't know this guy's socials, hadn't seen any of his stuff, and I said, according to like what you put out and the way people see you, what does that look like? He said, I don't post. I'm like, well, there you go. I said, you can expect nothing. You know, it's like you can expect exactly what you advertise. Like, nothing.
And I think the biggest mistake people make with branding as well is making it all about them, and it needs to be about their customer. It needs to be 80% about the customer and 20% about you. It's like, if your website, it needs to be what can you do for your customers? It's not about, we are this, welcome to our website, we're this. It's like, no, this is what we're going to do for you. We are going to help you with this. Like, It's just changing that messaging
Yeah.
and making it about them, make it about your customer. That's what's going to make them come and see you, is because you're actually helping them, and it seems that way.
That's funny you say that, because we had a thing, was it last year, we put together this stack to go and present to another academy about working with us, and I showed it to a guy who's primarily in sales, and we were just talking about it. It was one of my other colleagues' clients, and I was saying, he was like, what are you doing this weekend? And we're like, oh, we're going up to pitch this to somebody. He said, oh, do you want me to have a look at it? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay then. And we got to the accolades page, who we are, what we do, all the accolades. He said, just get rid of it. He was like, scrap it, get rid of it. And I was like, why? He was like, it's not about you. And he was asking me these questions. He was saying, what's this? He said, you haven't said anything about the client yet. He said, it's all about you. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, and that 80-20 like rings so true. Like,
and that's when we talk sales as well. If you go in there just displaying everything about you, it's like, no, that's not what sales is. Sales is about asking the right questions and understanding their needs.
Yeah,
it's not about fluffing up your feathers and looking the best you can. And that's what a lot of people fall over as well. You need to make it about your customers. But yeah, I mean, we went through that journey, going through name changes, because we were formerly C Squared Design, which was my last name's Coulson. It's like we're twins. That felt, when we started our business in the bedroom 20 years ago, seemed like a good name, C Squared, and that stuck with us for 19 years. And we rebranded 6 months ago to Embark Agency, and part of that process was, we're not aligned to that brand anymore, and it was about us. Like, the whole name is like C Squared, James Phil Coulson. The whole brand was just us. It wasn't. And whereas now Embark Agency is about the journey we're going to take our clients on. It's about them. So that whole kind of shift in the language and how we want to be perceived, and it is really scary, because you've got that. And I will never throw away that history of 19 years of what we've done. But it's part of who we are, and it's made who we are. But it just wasn't where we want to go. So it was a massive, you have what they call brand equity. So when people go, oh yeah, I know the guys from C Squared, it's like this reputation you've built with the brand. So it can be a little bit scary rebranding a business, because you're like, oh, no one's gonna, if people are looking for me, they're not gonna find me anymore, and oh shit. And there's a little bit of discomfort around that, but we never lost one client, and they're the only ones that know you exist. The ones you have. So it's about controlling that. When we rebranded, it was about controlling that narrative, saying, hey, we're not going out of business, we're not bankrupt or anything like that. There's nothing negative going on. We want to make our business more about our clients, and we want to be, we want to change the way we do our business. And part of that was becoming a B Corp certification business, or B Corp business. And that was going through our B Corp certification and becoming a business for good. And we changed everything about our business, from the way we practice, from ethically, socially, environmentally, the way we run our business. Like, we had to change the accountants and our bank and power, who supplies us power, and all of our policies and procedures and our constitution. And we've had to go through this massive transformation to become a B Corp business. And we'll be, I think, the third on the Gold Coast once we get certified. So it's a massive deal. But that was a really big part of our rebrand as well, as we wanted to be. That's our value proposition. That's how we differentiate ourselves in the market, is because we're a business for good. And if you work with us, then you're actually going to help protect the planet and the things you love, and do something positive in the world, which is which is out in the whole direction of our brand. So it was really important for us to change our brand. It was really scary, but everyone that did work with us, we told them we're changing, and now we're going to attract the ideal customers. And it's happened. We've worked with some really great projects since we've rebranded. So it's been it honestly is like a magic wand. Like, instantly we started attracting the right customers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've got a silly question.
It's the energy involved around that too.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a silly question.
This one might be. Did you think about the colour scheme? There's a lot of blue in here.
So when we first started a business, C Squared, we started as a blue company.
Cool.
And then we went black and white for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And Embark was like, I want to bring the blue back.
I love blue.
Yeah.
Like, blue and turquoise are my favourite colours.
It does.
So that's probably, I'll remember that now. Probably more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, James, he's got a blue company.
So we wanted to get away from, once again, black and white is pleasing everyone. We wanted to go, okay, well, we want to look different to everyone. We want to have a really strong, like, a colour can make a really strong statement and can be very memorable. So it actually is part of your brand salience, they call it, or your brand assets, is that colour blue. So people remember that, like McDonald's red and yellow. It's like you remember that color as much as you remember the name. And we also wanted a really short name as well, Embark. We wanted it to become, easy to remember, easy to say, one real big tip when you're changing your name, a lot of searches is done by voice these days. So if you spell it funny, you might have trouble getting searched for via voice. So it's really important that you spell it the right way. That's why we've actually trademarked this as well, which is another journey to go on. But it's been a journey and well worth it. I think it's as I said, there's nothing better than working with the right clients. And if you can make that happen, then it's worth every penny.
I think, like we said, we've got the tools now. I don't think it's ever been easier, is it, to curate?
No.
Your audience, really.
Yeah, it's in our industry, the toughest hurdle for people to get over is the brick and mortar style of working, where it's just like, if I'm not making money in this hour, I'm not making money.
Yeah.
So they don't even want to take time out to think about the strategy, because the time I'm spending thinking about the strategy in the future, I'm not making money by doing a haircut.
Yeah, and I think the problem is as well with your industry and my industry is you charge by the hour. Well, we used to. And it's trying to get out of that mindset of charging by the hour and charging by the value you're delivering. So, and if you use a photographer, an example, it takes them a second to take a photo, and it takes an amateur a second to take a photo. But it's that 20 years of experience that they've had. Why should you pay them the same amount? When they've had 20 years of experience, they know where the timing of the sun coming up over that hill, they know exactly when to do it. They know exactly the settings of the camera needs to be. They've got all of this experience that goes into this one click. But why should they get paid the same amount as someone who might take, they might even do it quicker. Like they might, I'll set up the camera. It might take someone a whole week to try and get the perfect shot. Professional photographer come in, he'll get it in an hour. Why should he get paid less for his knowledge and experience and talent for the same outcome? He should get rewarded for that. Not, you shouldn't pay them the same.
Yeah,
because he might actually get paid more because he took longer to do it. So.
I think it's a lot of our industry. It's probably broken from the inside, to be honest. The prices are way too cheap, I think, and it doesn't give the people in the industry a lot of freedom at all to step back and sit and think and create.
And we're again saying the power of personal brand is what's going to give them that power back, like the control.
Yeah,
and that's what's given me control over my situation now, is that power of branding, because it's like, well, now I'm the one that can make the decisions for myself, and how I want to live my life, how I want to impact other people through that as well.
And it gives you a way of also pre-selecting your customers as well. It's like, do they align to this? Do they align to that? Because once you know who you are and who you want to work with, you can actually go, oh no, they're not the right ones. It's your selection process as well. So it's getting very clear on that and being very strategic about it. Yeah. That
brick and mortar mentality goes hand in hand with the whole everybody's your customer thing, and just take everybody and everybody and everybody. And we use the podcast as a pre-qualifier for our clients, and the people have come, we would prefer, say, our workshops, we only take 8 people per workshop. We're looking to expand and get into like the facilitation space through education, expand our team so that we can take maybe more and make more impact. But at the moment it's 8 because we believe that we can only work with 4 people each in a hands-on setting. But we would prefer only a couple of people to show up. Then we're twice as the price than our second competitor, our second most highest charging competitor in the market. We're double their price, and when we did our market research at the start, we looked at it and we were like, all right, well, where's the value we're bringing versus everyone else? And reputation wise we're probably equal, but the value delivered, we're like, let's just double it. See how we go. And it's worked. And we'd prefer to have 2-3 people at a class. We'd prefer to have 4 people instead of 8, but 4 qualified people that we have qualified through our personal brand that are going to make that experience a rich experience for everybody that's there. Yeah,
because they want to be there. And it's like if someone wants a $600 logo, it's like they're not going to value what you're doing. They're paying 20 grand for that logo. They're going to value every fucking thing of that. And it's like, people, that's why you should never give things away for free, is because no one values something you don't have to pay for. So it's really important that you value your time and your expertise and your personal brand. And once again, it's part of that pre-qualifying.
And it's for them, right? Like when you're charging them the 20 grand, it's for them. I think that's the part that's lost in it sometimes. It's like, this is the value you're going to attach to this. you know. And
Exactly.
I learned that lesson through K2, paying into that and making that investment.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh wow, if I don't overcome this, how am I ever going to overcome it in a business setting? It's like not overcoming that objection you have and overcome yourself. That really hit me. I was like, oh wow, this is actually the value. Okay, I want to set things up from the start and I want to actually live a better life, a more rich life. What's money?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it is the value. It's the skin in the game a little bit.
It is skin in the game. Yeah. And you only get out what you put in. And I think, I'm super passionate about the space and helping people identify what that is. Yeah, because I think it helps them become, happier and healthier and love what they do more. And, if you can help businesses grow and scale and do everything they want to do, branding's a massive part of that. Definitely a long-term customer acquisition strategy, old branding.
On the other side of that then, so, not giving things away for free, but then what you put out on social media and giving like cheat sheets away, like different tips and hints.
That's okay. I think giving away, because you're helping on your terms and you're giving away what you want to give away, but you're not giving away free haircuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're giving away knowledge and helpful things, and that's totally okay because you're actually building reputation and authority as well, and you're helping people. So I think that's a great way of getting some exposure. I don't think that, but I wouldn't do a free logo for someone, but I would give them some tips on how to design their logo or how to design it starting out, and that's totally cool to do. Because
and then when they get stuck, pay me.
Once again, you can give them the tools, but they're not going to have your skills and expertise in the end of the day. So they can try themselves, because they're obviously not your ideal client there either, but one day they will be your ideal client, and they can go, you know what, these guys helped me when I first started out, and now I can afford them, and I'm gonna use them because they were, I love what they do and they help me out.
Yeah.
So it's about building that. It's a long-term game.
That's one thing we always say to people in the education space as well. There's sometimes in the hair industry, there's some secrets that people hold back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm not going to give you everything because then I'm giving you my secret. But then they're forgetting, and this is one thing I tell people who, I've mentored a few people in the industry, younger barbers coming through. And the number one piece of personal brand advice I give them is just be yourself, be you, because that's the only thing that you have different to anybody else.
It is.
And I can confidently go into a setting like we were in today and share absolutely everything that I know, put it all on the table, give them everything. But there's only one difference between me and them, and that's the 6 inches between my ears and the 6 inches between theirs. And it's like what they're going to do with it, but they also don't have that brand built up and that story built over the years.
And maybe your accent too.
It helps.
Yeah,
it helps.
Yeah,
over here, it actually really helps the accent.
It's a memorable thing.
It helps my personal brand over here
100%.
in Australia. In Ireland, I went back home after living here for 2 years, and I went into the pub, and I was single at the time. I was just trying to remember if I was single there for a sec, but I was. And I went into the pub and I was like, fuck it, I lost my point of difference.
They don't think you sound Australian, do they?
Yeah. Huh?
Do they think you sound, oh geez, you sound Australian? Yeah. Do you get that?
It's more of the words that I use.
Because I'm English, when I first came here and I'd go over there, they'd go, oh, people go, you sound English. But only English people would pick up that I sound English. I still get people saying, are you from England? Like, now?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
I never picked that up.
Yeah.
I would have never picked it up.
But some people pick it up and I'm like,
I feel like you have the temperament of like an English person. Like the way that you speak is a lot calmer than an Australian. Australians are quite high energy speakers.
That's just a lot of meditation and plant medicines that have done that.
It's brought you back down.
That's awesome.
That's another talk, going down that spiritual path. But it's another journey. But it's and when I go back there and I can start speaking English, if I start using the English words that they use and start speaking like them, I can actually sound English again. Kind of a little bit of an Australian twang, but
it's interesting how the environment does that too sometimes. When I speak to my parents and my family, I'm like, sometimes I'm listening to them, I'm like, are you really talking like that? Are you serious?
I think for me it's the words that I've learned since I've been in Australia. So the words that I never used at home, that I started using here, or new like sayings that I would just learn here, I'd learn them in Australian, like the Australian way of saying it.
It's also the up at the end.
Oh,
of
the
your words.
upspeak at the end.
I
used to hate it.
Yeah.
When I first got it, why is everybody doing that?
Yeah. And yet we all do it.
And then now everybody does it.
You lose a bit of certainty in that moment, don't you? It's almost like puts a question mark on what you're saying.
Well, if you speak to a like professional linguist, they say to not do that, because it turns everything into a question.
Yeah, it does turn
it's like,
into a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it?
There's a little bit of confusion.
It does.
Oh, we're all questioning each other here. Yeah.
Right.
No, awesome. I think that there's so much value there in all of that, and you know, for us, it's something that is actually one of my quarterly tops this quarter, which is working on personal brand. And yeah, it's having the strategy, you know, like we're all doing the personal brand without even realizing it, but it's strategizing it is the difference.
Yeah, and you know, you look at all those famous people that have a PR team and a publicist and all these things that control the narratives. But you know, with the brand, we can control that narrative a little bit, and that's by just the stuff we're putting out. You know, whether it's videos or content. But yeah. Any
tips you'd have for hairdressers or barbers on personal brand or branding in general? I think it's working out what you love to do and working out who the ideal client is that you want to work with, and figuring out how to attract those. That's the main thing. It's just figuring out what exactly you want to do with yourself, and that sometimes that's the hardest thing to figure out.
I think that brings it back to using it as a tool, doesn't it? I think that's a hurdle a lot of people got to get over. Is a lot of some of our colleagues and even people we get in the academy, I think that's the first hurdle, is to look at it as a tool. Yeah. And then you can start to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to use it. And also I think what's something important to say is just because you build your brand around a certain target audience and a certain direction, and that's your strategy. If people come to you that don't align with exactly what that strategy is, or they're, you then have the decision to say, yeah or no, you don't want to work with them. So you're not excluding everyone else. You're just not putting your marketing and brand efforts towards it. So you can still work with those other people. You don't have to go, I'm never working with any of those people again. You still have that opportunity to help them if you want to. But it's the intention is going into that marketing and brand strategy. Mm-hmm. So like what you put on the bait. Yeah. You know, exactly. At the end of the fishing rod is for the ideal. Exactly. Catch the ideal fish. If you don't catch the right fish, you can just scoop the bucket as well if you see a few on the side, you know. And you can throw it back in if it's not caught the right one. But yeah, it's still, you still have that deciding factor. But yeah, that's you just finding your differentiation in the market. That's the key point, is finding, you know, your place in the ecosystem and what you can lean your hat on and try and be different to someone else. So that's the key takeaway. And we all have it. And as a personal brand, it's a lot more simple than what we think sometimes. I think, you know, we all have our key points of difference. That's for sure. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, awesome. Great. We have one last question. We have one last on the podcast. Oh yeah, question. Go for it. Do I need to zoom in for this one? Yeah. Yeah, we do. No. Maybe I can't. Are we gonna have a moment? No, I can't leave over. Okay. No, we'll leave it. It's okay. It's all good. We always ask all of our guests this at the end because it's a simple question, but it's a powerful question. Okay. It's a life kind of question. But are you happy? Am I happy? I got the same working. Am I happy? I would say yes, I am happy. But I've done a lot of work on my personal mindset, and with the spiritual side of the work I've done, I would say I'm very happy. I'm very, very content with life. So I would say yes. I do love life, and I don't take anything for granted. I love it. I love every part of my life. I love the challenges as much as I love the good times, and look forward to what the rest of my life looks like. I feel like I'm nearly halfway, so it's a bit scary. But yeah, I'm happy. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Beautiful. I think that was a beautiful podcast. I think we have a lot of really, really useful information. That was value there. So much value. It was gems from the start. Yeah, awesome. And look, if you want to see some more tips on personal branding or branding in general, just head to my Instagram. Yeah. Where can everybody find you? The James Coulson
is on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure that's Facebook as well. It's just the James Coulson, but yeah, Instagram is probably the best place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the James
Awesome.
Coulson.
Yeah, you share some really great hints and tips on there around branding, and I think that's something like we find super valuable. That's why we're here with you today to talk about it. I think in our industry it's something that's overseen or underlooked. I don't know what way you'd put it, but like it's something that is not valued enough, maybe.
Yeah, and I think especially starting out, you don't really have a budget. A lot of people don't have a budget, but it's not hard to just think about, why should they choose us? Just ask that question. Why should they choose us? So, it's a sign of a mature person or brand is when you start working on that and controlling that narrative. It's like, yes, I'm serious about what I'm doing and I want to succeed. Just next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There's some maturity and authority in that, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah. It's like anchoring yourself, and this is what I do.
Yeah. This is leaving. Our tagline is "Leave your mark." It is like leaving your mark, putting a stake down, and this is who I am, and this is who I want to. This is the mark I'm leaving in this place.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Awesome.
Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure we might even do this again.
Yeah.
We need to get into this
We need
second
to talk
story.
about the spiritual path next time.
We'll talk plant medicines and stuff.
Yeah. Maybe we can take some and talk about it.
Done.
Done. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.